Two of the U.S. Navy's most elite pilots were ordered toward a secret rendezvous point 60 miles away, classified coordinates no one outside their cockpits should have known. When they arrived, something was already waiting for them. It had no wings, no engine, and moments earlier, it had outrun their $40 million jets and simply vanished. This happened off San Diego in 2004, and Commander David Fravor has never stopped talking about it. First, you need to see how it began. It's a clear afternoon, roughly 100 miles southwest of San Diego. Fravor, a Top Gun graduate with 16 years in the cockpit, is leading a routine training run. Then the radio crackles. The missile cruiser USS Princeton wants him to break off the drill and intercept a real-world target, not a simulation. Something is out there, low over the water, and it's been showing up on their screens for 2 weeks straight. Fravor banks his Super Hornet toward the coordinates, with no idea he's about to fly straight into aviation history. What Fravor didn't know yet was how rattled the men on the Princeton already were. Their senior radar operator, Kevin Day, had been watching these contacts for days. They'd appear above 80,000 feet higher than almost anything flies, then drop toward the ocean in seconds. Not glide, drop. Day counted more than 100 of them over the course of that single week. He kept recalibrating his gear, certain it had broken. It hadn't. The objects were real, and they were doing things his radar was never built to display. So, when Fravor and his wingman, a rookie pilot, on one of her first big flights got the call, the crew below was desperate for trained eyes on the target. As Fravor closed in, the Princeton gave him a chilling heads up. The object had just dropped from 80,000 feet to 20,000 in under 1 second. Think about that. A commercial jet cruises around 35,000 feet. This thing fell more than twice that height faster than you can snap your fingers, then leveled off like nothing happened. And it only gets stranger. To understand why this terrifies experts, you need to know who these pilots are. Fravor wasn't a nervous trainee. He commanded the Black Aces, an elite F/A-18 squadron with thousands of flight hours behind him. His wingman, Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, would go on to a distinguished career of her own. These are people trained to identify every aircraft on the planet at a glance and to stay ice cold under pressure. They are, by design, the hardest people in the world to fool. Remember that when you hear what they swear they saw, the USS Nimitz strike group was running pre-deployment drills before heading to the Persian Gulf, completely routine. The kind of exercise these crews had done 100 times before. Steel gray ships, open ocean, a clear sky. Nothing about that November day was supposed to be remarkable. And that's exactly what makes the next few minutes so hard to dismiss. There was no air show, no experimental program, no warning of any kind. Just a normal training mission that, at exactly 2 in the afternoon, became the most documented military UFO encounter in American history. As Fravor descended toward the target area, he looked down at the ocean and saw something that stopped him cold. The water was churning. A patch of sea, maybe the size of a passenger jet, was frothing white and breaking, as if something large sat just beneath the surface or had just risen out of it. There were no ships, no submarines surfacing, no debris, just violently disturbed water in the middle of a calm, flat ocean. And hovering about 50 feet above that boiling patch was the object itself. He described it later in plain, unforgettable terms. White, smooth, about 40 feet long, shaped exactly like a tic-tac breath mint. No wings, no rotors, no exhaust. No visible means of propulsion of any kind. It wasn't riding on rotor wash or jet thrust. It was just there, suspended over the water, moving in quick, abrupt jerks. Fravor compared the motion to a ping-pong ball bouncing off a wall. Sharp, random, instant direction changes no aircraft with a human inside could ever survive. But here's where it gets really interesting. Fravor decided to get a closer look. He began spiraling his Super Hornet down toward the object, descending in a wide circle to close the distance. And then the tic-tac did something that broke every rule he had ever learned. It seemed to notice him. As he came down one side of the circle, the object started climbing up the opposite side, mirroring his movement as if it were aware of his jet and deliberately keeping its distance. Two intelligent things, sizing each other up over the open Pacific. This wasn't random drift. The object was reacting. Fravor, a man not prone to exaggeration, said it was as if the thing knew he was there and was responding to him in real time. So, he made a decision. He stopped circling and pointed his jet straight at it, cutting across the circle to intercept it nose to nose. For a heartbeat, the two were closing on each other over the empty ocean. A U.S. Navy fighter and an object that obeyed none of the laws of physics he had spent his entire life mastering. What happened next took less than a second. As Fravor bore down on it, the tic-tac stopped, hung there for an instant, and then it was simply gone. Not flew away, not turned and accelerated into the distance where he could still track it. Gone. He described it as the fastest thing he had ever seen, vanishing like a bullet out of a gun. One moment, a solid white object filled his view. The next, empty sky. His mind couldn't process it. Neither could his wingman, watching from above. 4 trained military aviators, Fravor, Dietrich, and both their backseat weapons officers all witnessed it. This wasn't one tired pilot seeing a weather balloon. 4 sets of expert eyes, plus the radar crews on 2 separate ships, plus an infrared camera. That is what makes the tic-tac different from almost every UFO story you have ever heard. It isn't a blurry photo or a single account. It's a stack of independent, professional observations, all describing the same impossible thing on the same afternoon. And the ocean was still churning where it had been. Stunned, Fravor radioed in what he had seen and turned for home. The disturbance in the water below him? When he looked again, it too had vanished. Smooth ocean, as if nothing had ever happened. He pointed his jet toward the rendezvous point he'd been assigned a spot pilots call the cap point, where aircraft are supposed to regroup. It was 60 miles away. A private, pre-arranged set of coordinates known only to the Navy crews on that mission. And this is the detail I promised you. Wait for it. As Fravor flew toward that cap point, the radio came alive again. The USS Princeton was tracking something. The tic-tac had reappeared, and not just anywhere. It was sitting at the exact cap point, 60 miles away, the precise classified coordinates Fravor had just been ordered to fly toward. It had crossed 60 miles of sky in seconds and was waiting for him at a location it had no possible way of knowing. The radar operators were stunned. Kevin Day later said it was as if the object had read their minds. Let that land. A craft with no wings and no engine outran 2 of the world's fastest fighter jets, then appeared at a secret meeting point the pilots had been privately ordered to fly toward. It either intercepted their encrypted orders or it simply understood, somehow, where they were going. Fravor turned his jet to confront it one more time. But by the time he reached the spot, it was gone again, vanished off radar, off thermal, off the face of the sky entirely. This time, for good. Back aboard the Nimitz, another crew managed to lock onto one of these objects with an infrared targeting camera. The result is the now famous FLIR footage. A dark, glowing oval drifting against a cold sky, then snapping sideways and rocketing out of frame faster than the camera can follow. A trained weapons officer is heard reacting in pure disbelief. That single clip would, years later, be confirmed by the Pentagon itself as authentic. But on that November day in 2004, almost no one outside the strike group would learn any of it. Because here's what happened when they got back. The pilots landed, buzzing, ready to file the report of their lives. And the reaction was nothing. According to Fravor, there was no formal debrief, no investigators swarming the deck. Shortly after, men he didn't recognize reportedly arrived and collected the recorded data, the hard drives, the tapes, and they were never seen again. The most extraordinary aerial encounter in modern naval history was quietly swept off the table, and the pilots were left wondering if they'd just imagined the whole thing. For 13 years, that's where it stayed. Fravor went on with his career and mostly kept quiet, because in military culture, the word UFO can end a career. Pilots who report them get laughed out of the ready room. So, a Top Gun-trained commander sat on the most stunning thing he had ever witnessed, because admitting it out loud could brand him as unreliable. Think about how strong the evidence had to be for him to risk everything by finally speaking, because in 2017, the silence finally broke wide open. In December 2017, the New York Times published a front-page story revealing a secret Pentagon program that had been quietly studying these encounters for years. The tic-tac footage went public. Suddenly, Fravor wasn't a lone voice, he was a credible, on-the-record Navy commander describing exactly what he saw. Then in 2020, the Department of Defense did something it had never done before. It officially released the videos and confirmed they were real, unexplained Navy footage. The objects the government once ignored were now admitted to be genuine and genuinely unidentified. In 2023, Fravor sat before Congress, under oath, and told lawmakers the tic-tac was far superior to anything in the U.S. arsenal. Real military pilots, testifying to the United States government about technology that fell from 80,000 feet in a second, outran our best jets and showed signs of intelligent reaction. And still, more than 20 years later, no one can say what it was. Not a drone, not a balloon, not a glitch. An official 2021 government report examined cases exactly like this and offered no explanation at all. So here's the answer to what I promised you. The detail that still haunts these hardened pilots isn't that something outflew them, it's that it was waiting for them. The tic-tac appeared at the exact secret coordinates they had been ordered to fly toward, 60 miles away, before they ever arrived. Whatever it wasn't just faster than us. It seemed to know our plans. And the United States government, after 20 years, 3 confirmed videos, and sworn testimony, still has no idea what crossed paths with the Navy that afternoon or whether it's still watching. Got an angle I missed? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you want me to keep digging into this stuff.